What's up, beautiful people listening to Roma? Welcome to the channel. Today we have Sowell Dismantles Feminism with facts. Also, I'm excited to check this one out. Let's check it out.
Men and women. From Economic Facts and Fallacies. I'm quoting you to yourself, Tom. Quote, "It is widely believed that the rise of American women in high-level occupations since the 1960s has been due to anti-discrimination laws, and that these in turn have been due to the feminist movement. In reality, the proportion of women in high-level occupations was greater during the first decades of the 20th century than in the middle of the 20th century, and all of this was before the feminist movement." Explain.
Yes, in the first half of the 20th century, for example, in 1908, the percentage of women in who's who in America was twice what it was in 1950. And various fields, if you look at the women who got PhDs in economics, chemistry, who got law degrees, other postgraduate degrees, those were all higher in the 20s and 30s than they were in the 50s. And there was a very simple reason for it. Women in those days got married later.
In the early years
in
of
the early years.
Right.
Over time, the age of marriage and the age of beginning to have children began to decline. And the classic era was, of course, the era of the baby boom. And that's when women hit a low in their proportion of the postgraduate degrees and in the professions in which those degrees would be used. Now, around 1956, the age of marriage began rising. And in 1957, the age of having children rose, strangely enough. And as that rise continued, you saw women rising again in these various professions. So that now one of the professions they reached in 1972 the same proportion they had had back in 1932. And as the age of marriage kept rising and as the number of children kept falling, women went on to higher and higher levels. Now the people on the other side say the opposite by the simple expedient of looking as if the world began in 1960. They ignore all the rest of that, and they say it's all due to the feminist movement, to anti-discrimination laws, and so forth.
Well, you're right. I'm going to quote you again. "Among the many factors which influence male-female economic differences, the most elusive is employer discrimination."
Yes, that when you correct for all the various factors, such as the number of hours worked, the continuous employment versus taking a few years out to have children and so on. You take all that into account, the differences between men and women become quite trivial. If you look at the academic world, or as far back as 1969, women who were never married and who had earned higher incomes than men who had never married. They became a tenured professor at a higher rate than men who had never married. And then later on, if you look at the general population, if you take the women who are past the childbearing years and who work continuously, their incomes were higher than men who would work continuously, and so on. So the difference is that not that the employer is paying them differently, but that they have different characteristics.
So the central variable in explaining economic differences between men and women is not employer discrimination, not the rise of feminism. It's that women, it's child rearing, marriage and child rearing. That's the variable. As that varies, a women's arrival or participation rate in high-level occupations varies with that. That's
Absolutely.
the correlation. Okay. Now, in principle, you note, family responsibilities could be perfectly evenly divided between fathers and mothers. But that isn't the way it has worked in practice. Quote, I'm quoting you again, "Since economic consequences follow from practices rather than principles, the asymmetrical division of domestic responsibilities produces male-female differences in income," close quote. Question, what are the policy implications of that? If we become fixed on eliminating male-female income differences, is it the case that the only choice, the only route for doing that is to involve the government in redesigning the very nature of the family?
Well,
or am I leaping to a melodramatic conclusion?
No. Yeah, and logically that's certainly true. However, not all domestic responsibilities can be shared equally, such as having babies, which is not an inconsequential thing since the existence of the human race depends on it. But what it means is that women make choices that make a lot of sense for them. For example, the choice of occupations, that women tend not to go into occupations in which there's a very high rate of obsolescence. I mean, and if you're a computer engineer and you take 5 years out to have a child and have the child up to the age where you can put him in daycare. Yeah. Well, my gosh, the world has changed.
Your job is gone.
You'd have to start way back. On the other hand, if you become a librarian, you become a teacher, other occupations like that, then you can take your 5 years off, come back, and pick up pretty much where you left off.
Right.
Wow. I still believe that most of the jobs are not because of based on the gender, or most of the pay are not because of your gender. Because feminists, they always put it out there and say, in the household it has to be equal. Men and women are meant to be paid equal, to be paid or promoted the same way, or should be treated the exact same way. And I still believe that it is not so, because how about if this person have the capabilities more than this person, regardless of the gender? We should even weigh all of those options rather than looking at your sex or looking at your gender. Because one person might know something more than the other, and one person can do something more than the other. And another thing that most women look at is the fact that also family structure, and or maybe when they go out to have kids, they are being restricted in some areas, or they can't catch up with some areas. But like what was said here is variance depending on job and the job market. So yeah, sometimes when you leave out or go leave a particular job, even for a particular time frame, and then you come out, because of evolution, things have evolved, and you're not going to meet it in the exact same position it is or it was when you left it. But what can be done to improve that? That should be the question to be asked. More so, if you're gonna go back into a certain industry and you have no knowledge about it, or probably, let's say you have a certain knowledge about it, and maybe you left off for a particular period of time, maybe to take care of your family or to raise kids. The most important thing to do is to catch up, maybe get yourself acquainted with what is happening, or the new things, the new development in that industry. I mean, that is fair. I know that some employers would want somebody who has fresh knowledge and who is into it, like in the new process, as opposed to having somebody who was there, or who had the previous knowledge, or who had the old knowledge of how it was before the present. But yeah, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. I don't see, like, whenever I take up a job, whenever I take up a job, or whenever I look at jobs, I don't see gender as a constraint in a job. I feel like it varies based on capabilities. But yeah, it might be different though. It might be different though, because there are some particular jobs where we have more female than males, while there are some particular jobs or particular jobs where we have more males than female. But that is also variant as to capabilities, because while you're also thinking that, okay, there are some males that are being paid more than some females, there are also some males that are being paid higher than some males, while there are also some females that are being paid higher than some males. So it varies. It varies. Honestly, we should just, if at some point, do what we love and do what we enjoy. Because sometimes if you do what you love and what you enjoy, lots of all of these things will not be a problem, will not be a factor, especially in your work environment, because you basically enjoy that. I for one, I genuinely enjoy research, and I enjoy writing alongside informative session. I think my former place of work, my former corporate job, before I left, I was in HR, and aside doing HR, I also was involved in project management. I also was involved in a couple of researches in the company. I was involved in IT, in law as well. In fact, lots of departments that I got myself involved in. I worked in various in departments, and some department that had no female in it, but I managed to get myself in because I was curious. I wanted to learn, and there was room for me to learn, and I created that room to learn because most of the constraints were females barely do these kind of jobs. So I wanted to work in it because it wasn't because maybe females don't work in those kind of jobs, because I wanted to learn what was out there to get myself acquainted with everything. Because one for sure is I love learning something new, and by the time I was about leaving, I discovered that I've gained a couple of knowledge from different departments, different sectors, and it actually really did help me. Even now that I am here doing YouTube, it actually really helped me because tomorrow, if I am actually looking out to apply to other jobs or to apply to jobs, I have experiences in so many sectors, I have experiences in so many departments, so that's gives me broad chances, gives to the job market. So sometimes if you're passionate about something, you will not even look at the pay would not be an issue. But yeah, that's enough about me. But all the same, I really love your contribution in the comment down below. What are your thoughts about this? What do you think about gender pay gap? What do you think about jobs that have more more gender than the other, and or especially with salaries and all? Or yeah, what are your thoughts about this topic? You can also share other useful information you think might be really helpful. And until next time, see you in the next video. I would also love to know if you are if you work in corporate. You can also let me know what jobs you do, what job you do, how did you find out, how is the job market, did you leave your job for a certain period of time, and how, if you left your job for a certain period of time, how long did you leave the job market, and how long did it take you to get back and get acquainted with the new development and all of that interesting stuff. I really love to learn from you, to know if you are in the corporate market, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you maybe you're just doing something by the side. You can also let me know in the comment down below, and also let me know about other new structure in your job environment or in your work environment. What are the new structures that are coming up that you're getting that are coming up? Are you getting yourself acquainted with it? Are you also resilient to learn the new knowledge in the job market or in the market? Or are you switching jobs? Did you switch jobs and stuff? Like, let's just have a beautiful conversation in the comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one.